So are we in red, orange, or green zone now?
I'm on orange still. You?
Well, orange. I've been in red since you what? No, it's not pleasant at all.
Thank you.
In all honesty, we met years before vicariously because a friend of mine was working at Audi VW, and he said he met this incredible guy whose job it was to come round to all of these places and motivate the staff. And the first thing he said was, first tell them that it's all about
Family time. And
priorities. Yeah, it's all about priorities. And he was really, really excited. And I thought, wow, what a cool job. I'd love to have a job like that. This guy said, no, this guy came from Cape Town and like top paid motivational guy. And seriously, he was like, no, this guy gets paid a lot. And he just came basically there to motivate all of us. And the first thing he said was that you shouldn't be here on a Saturday, which I kind of like that philosophy. So,
But you can come out of red zone now.
Yeah, I'm still in red zone.
Yeah, very much. I can see.
I'm still in red zone. You can see my face. Hey. Yeah, so Ruan trains professional athletes and also for companies, for people to actually get into someone's head so they can perform at a much higher level.
Yes.
And you're explaining to me, because this is really going to help me, about the red, green, and orange zone. And do you mind expanding on the red, green, and yellow zone?
Number one is, I believe that the modern human being is living in a quick fix world.
Yeah.
And because of the World Wide Web, access to so many things is by a push of a button. But unfortunately, mental toughness and mental stability and mind power is not just by the click of a button or a push of a search button to accomplish that. So, just as every single muscle and tendon and ligament in your body, your mind is also a muscle. But just like there's a belief that a frog can swim in boiling water by putting him in a pot with normal room temperature, and then every single day, just ever so slightly, just increase the water temperature, he adapts to it because human beings adapt very quickly. And then the more you get used to it, the more you can push up the temperature, and that frog can swim in boiling water. And exactly the same with your mind. A lot of people say, I'm going to have positive thoughts, I'm going to win this match, and then the next day, for some reason, he loses the match and he says, no, but that doesn't work. Because if I work through certain phases for you, and as you rightly said, a green, an orange, and a red phase, you need to understand, and it's very unique to you as a person. It's not generic at all. So having that, your green phase, is a very informal but still present-minded state. And an orange phase is a little bit more present-minded, a little bit more intensity. And then a red phase is all guns blazing and switched on. And those phases are unique to you and to the relationship between the coach, myself, and then the athlete. So it's nothing generic at all. And small little cues, now cues are flash words, flash images, flash quotes, flash events will assist you to go through the process. Because if you are a top athlete and you're constantly running in red zone, that mental toughness is you don't burn out, and depending on how long your competition will be. So competition is ranging from 20 minutes, half an hour to 2 days, depending on if you're doing adventure racing, for example. So there's certain phases that you need to go from red to orange because it's not needed to be in red, and then you go to red because it's needed to be red.
And so with all these karate, the first world championship you won when you were how old?
I was 17 years old.
You were 17. Were you already using some of these techniques? Or did you develop them as you went on?
I had the fortune and opportunity to work with a very, very, very good sports psychologist. And there were so many small little tickles that probed. And I said, but what if I can do this? What if? So they gave me certain little nitbits, golden nuggets that I made my own, and then through self-exploring and I think a little bit of trial and error, I developed a little bit of my own flavor to myself.
Got these pro athletes coming to you, and it's mostly word by mouth that they come to you. And
yeah, it's absolutely such a fairy tale success story. I reached out, and Ruan Retief contacted me after I first engaged. So he reached out. We had an amazing first meet, and I had a discussion what I can offer, and he had a couple of needs. And we said, let's give it a go, and the rest is history.
yeah,
And then obviously through his performance and the way he competes and the way that he sets up for a competition, everybody sees that. And then, yes, word of mouth was the key.
so that's fascinating. And with these pro sportsmen, you used your because you train as a biokineticist and then sports psychologist as well.
I just applied a lot of the stuff that I have experienced in my life. And if I start talking to an athlete and he talks about his training and his competing and how he's setting up to a specific competition, I can relate to that. And then I say, oh, but why don't we start thinking about that? Or let's try to think a little bit about that.
So how would you deal with a young guy? Because most of these kite surfers are very young because they get major injuries. I mean, we can maybe if you're watching on video when we actually do the podcast, we can just show some of the crashes these guys have. I mean, they're jumping 35 meters in the air, which is that's a 10 to 11 story building.
Yes.
And they're going like 2 football fields or 2 cricket fields in length.
Yes.
They're looping the kite through the air. They're 10 stories up, and sometimes they land hard, and they can just break everything. One guy broke both his legs. A friend of mine broke his ribs the other day. Actually, 2 friends of mine that I'm staying with. So what would you give to a guy, like a young guy coming up that's got this kind of like kill or be killed mentality all the time? What advice would you give to a guy like that?
The main reason, the main element of that kill or not, or kill or to be killed, that is fire. That's the fire in your belly, and I like fire in your belly because I don't have to spark it. It's there already.
All right.
So giving him skills to notice it, to exactly classify this is a trigger to get that red zone or that kill or to not be killed temperament to get going.
Mm-hmm.
So realize what it is, classify it, put it in words, quantify it, and then put a settle on it, put a range on it, and you ride it.
And you ride that bad boy.
You ride it. To have fire in your belly, it's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
It's better that
but you can't be in that zone all the time.
You can't. You will literally burn yourself out from the inside. So that's where there's certain times to unwind, and that's important to step away from that specific sport.
And it's fascinating to me because then you get a guy like Max Verstappen who he's still kind of always in the zone, but he's like a new school type of competitor where he does seem to have that, even though he's got that intense fire and that incredibly talented, but he's got a kind of like a going out mechanism, which I think is a new way of being if you're a professional sports, because for me it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is being a professional sportsman.
I think to catch on to that, I think it's always been, I think the pressure and the responsibility and the age of top sports athletes that came down very, very much. So you've got top sport, for example, Max Verstappen didn't have a license to drive himself to the Formula One course, but he was racing Formula One cars. So the pressure on those athletes are so high. If you look at around like 20 years ago, top athletes only peaked at 25, 26, maybe 30, 31 going there.
All
And
right.
now top athletes, if you look at the gymnastics, there's girls 15, 16 years old competing in the Olympic Games. And that's a lot of pressure for a very young mind and a very young body.
And that brain is developed like that, and it's hard for that brain to actually change.
My whole philosophy in life is all the stuff that I tried out and when I signed up for, I had an external coach teaching me that. So if I did
Oh, you did?
Ironman, yes, I appointed him as, even if it's a friend, I appointed him. If I had world championships, I had enough knowledge about katas and fighting and sparring, but I had an external coach looking at me, making sure that I'm eating nutrition, making sure that I'm drinking water, and he's checking in on me.
Or your Nachi game. Huh?
Yes, yeah, not again, yeah, and I see what. So, and that's what's so important, that the young athletes of today need to have a mentor or a coach or a mentor coach.
So, and this is a famous Friedrich Nietzsche saying: is as long as you know the why, you can endure almost any how.
That's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
As long as you know the why, you can endure almost any
But
how.
that is so amazing because the age of the athletes is coming down so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's hitting now sub 18. How on earth would you know what is your why?
I know.
You haven't experienced life you haven't experienced 1/3 of your life or 1/10 of your life. If you live into 100,
What answers do you get from these athletes when you say, why are you doing this?
if it's a straight up, because it's fame and fortune,
Okay.
money makes the world go round,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well,
But the problem is that's an external factor. That's an external motivator. And the moment you
so
take
what do you say that to? So if a person says fame and fortune, you say, okay, great.
great.
Or do you say, wait, hang on.
No, again, there's never a no answer. He needs to give me the answer because I'm not in his brain.
Yeah.
So I guide him through this whole process. And again, now, the new generation think you're going to say to me, for example, my why is fame and fortune. I'm going to say something back to you. You're going to change your why and you're going to win the world championship. My question to the 15-year-old will be, why are you here? What are you doing here?
Okay.
And a lot of them will go,
No, let's actually do it.
my dad said I need to be here. But if we take a spin on it and your happy place, because when you started, it was fun, the wind was in your hair,
Loved it.
blonde hair, and there was a salty taste in your mouth, your feet in the sand, you had a little bit of a tan, and then we take away from that and we start training, and that's why I do a lot of beach times, where I take you through that whole process, and when you stand on the beach, you start thinking of going back to your happy place. Because the happy place reminds you why you started this whole process from the beginning. And the moment you understand that my happy place is my place that my heart rate is down, my blood pressure is down, and you can copy and paste that to competition, your performance will increase 110%. Because now you're putting pressure on yourself, you are almost competing outside of your own body, because it's all about winning. But if we approach this whole competition much more as a training session, not as a competition session, your stress levels will drop down, your heart rate will come down, and then through that, it takes pressure off you and your performance will improve. There is not a handbook for this whole element of motivation and setting you up for success. Visualization comes in where, for example, your brain is searching for a specific answer and it wants an answer now. So you are searching and probing to get that magical potion to make the winning or the podium for world championships. So then I'll take you out of that. I'll put you flat on the ground. We'll go through a breathing technique. We'll do a relaxation technique. Because you remember, your brain is keeping asking questions. So the reason, and that's pure in my opinion, and your brain keeps on reaching back because you haven't given it an answer. So it's probing for an answer. So then we say, okay, let's reboot. We put you in a element of breathing. Breathing could bring down the heart rate, brings down the blood pressure. We get you in a calm state, so from the toes up to the head. And then we start probing and say, listen here, but what is your brain asking yourself? I want to go faster, or I want to go quicker around one of the boys, because there's a reason for that. Then we give them that answer. So we visualize how that specific turn, where you stand on the beach, you feel the sand in between your toes, the wind is gusting, and you go through that whole process. And through that, I will determine, but this is the element you actually need an answer for. Then I'll bring you out. The moment you get an answer for that specific question, and then we'll take you back to the box. A lot of my athletes are so much creative that they're always all over the place. So we're giving them a platform through visualization to cluster all that stuff. Just don't put it in cast and iron. We just put a little bit of a twine around it so it's together, those thoughts. We process those thoughts, and when we finish with those thoughts, we say, okay, let's put that aside, and let's go to or go studying, or go new skill, or whatever the case is.
Let's take a guy like this, right, and do this visualization with him that now, say, in rugby or in football, whatever it is, that he's kicked every goal or something like that, and he's made every tackle, he's kicked every goal, or if it's Formula One, he's gone through that podium. Is that actually an answer, or is the brain looking for an answer to how to get there? I'm not quite sure exactly what you mean by an answer.
Remember, your brain is multifaceted. So because you are hunting, your goal is podium. You are whatever you are doing, whatever is the barrier between your goal and your brain. Yeah. For example, schoolwork, because a lot of the youngsters need to do schoolwork.
Yeah.
So this is a barrier. So now, if you keep on pushing, because this is a barrier between me and my gold medal, or me and my podium. But now you're blocking it, because schoolwork, you need to get through school, or if you don't study. But now, certain things peel through. So now we go, you're reading an article, and then it peels through. I wonder how's that guy in Europe doing this weekend? Then you stand up and then you go and Google it, how he's doing in Europe. And then something else pops up. So that's we want to, all those little strings that goes through that barrier, we want to pull it out, and we say, okay, let's cluster this. This is Ivor's whole process of getting to kitesurfing. So let's handle that. We'll spend an hour on that, and we'll cluster all those bundles of energy. And through monotonous repetitions, I create a new nervous path, and it's possible. I can kick and punch the left and right hand. So if I'm going sparring, I can go left hand in front or right hand in front. And I kick with left hand.
Yeah.
That's quite funny, or quite nice, because if I go against the boxer, I can change around. You can play around on the sparring floor.
Yeah.
And I can change around, and I can change around. So he sets me up because he thinks I'm going to say the same. I just change around, and then all his plans goes crumbling down because he doesn't know how to punch me down, because now it's a total new fight in front of me. And the moment he sets me up, I just change it around again. And he goes, no, you can't do that. I need to change that around. And then I don't change.
And so this is fascinating stuff to me as well, because as a chiropractor, in 2001, we got the first neural imaging. It was the first time you could actually see how neural pathways form in the brain. Neuroplasticity, yeah, which is fascinating.
Incredible.
And you can actually see it now. So there's videos online on YouTube. I might actually just overlay it here on the podcast, and like you say, with repetition, so it's kind of like driving down a dirt road and there's a freeway of like you doubting yourself, but then there's this little sort of dirt road of you going like, hey, you can actually do this. And then with repetition, that turns into a freeway. And that they've actually shown now how this happens, how these neurons send out these dendrites and whatever, and then they connect, and then they deconnect, and then they reconnect again, and then eventually they form a full-on pathway.
That's the enlightenment moment. There we go. Aha! That's an aha moment. Because the moment that neuron touches, that's where muscle memory comes from.
So if you want all this neuroplasticity to be going on in your brain, right? Can you be doing too much of that? Can you be challenging your brain on a daily basis, saying, "Listen, I just want this to be a plastic brain, and be able to, so I want it to be plastic on top of plastic type of thing. So I want to be able to read faster. I want to learn languages easier. Do you think that there's a limit to what the brain is capable of in that regard?
No,
No.
there's no limitations that I believe in. And the main thing is, if you have, and it's the same with your body. If I say to you, oh, you need to do 7 days a week, 5 hours on the water, the age you are now, the way you go, I will die. But if I give you a nutritionist and I give you a hyperbaric trainer and I let you stretch and I give you the best food you can, the possibility is there because you need to deload. And that's where your brain is the most amazing computer you will ever own. But if you look at the computer there, you need to sometimes defrag that thing a little bit. Otherwise, it becomes slow and it gets sluggish. And that's where sleep comes in, because sleep, for me, is a very good deloading and rebooting of the system, and the element of rest. Because that's a very sensitive area, especially for top athletes. Number one, that's the way that you upload, the way that you teach, the way that you teach that new skill, the way that you teach that language, the way that you teach that new draw, whatever the case may be, the way and you go through a process, stage 1, stage 2, and you don't skip passes, and you don't skip phases. Because remember, if you skip a phase of a new learning curve, there's a little bit of a block. So when the moment you put pressure on it, it's going to collapse. So phase 1, phase 2, 3, maybe the new skill is 10 phases, and on 4 and 5 you skip. Now that path or that nervous system is not a fully developed skill. So that's why it's important. Be patient in learning a new skill, then process that, file it, and then defrag it. And then you need to say, I need to have that access to that file now, and it will jump to that file.
All right.
So coming back
With
to
repetition.
with repetition.
All right.
Yes.
Is there a test you can give for the brain, like something like I don't know, like a quiz or something?
Um, the element of reaction time, your reaction time, there will be, for example, a reaction test that you will do, and if your reaction time is in a specific parameter slower than normal, then the question will be, when last did you train, when last did you eat, when last did you have good sleep, because that's all factors that plays a role in if you are fatigued or not. And then if your time remains for specific training exercises, for example, a light will go on and you need to touch it, or a sequence of lights, and your reaction time is slower, then you bring up fatigue. So then you go, okay, I want to, and again now, we are processing our brains. Your brain keeps on running because of social media. And that's a personal opinion. You're scrolling. So
Scrolling culture.
you are getting so much information,
Yeah.
but it's
Useless.
It's useless information.
Yeah.
Good information. Remember we talking about you reading your 4 words and jumping to the podium?
Yeah.
That's information that you are using brain space, using your RAM of your
Yeah.
brain for nothing.
Yeah.
So I encourage my clients, and obviously there's a lot of tests out there. You need to be off your phone at 8 o'clock and for 2 hours before you sleep. This method down the madness.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And the moment you start using that RAM of yours, coming back to you.
So it's nearly 8 o'clock, guys. So we'll see you next time, guys. Anyway, sorry.
So that's the element of because you're using empty RAM for information that's nothing to do with your goal, that was getting onto the podium or being the best cyclist in the world or the best sprinter in the world.
Yeah, and so that's a very interesting point because I never thought about it like that. So you can do a test for the brain by reaction speeds.
But again, I like to have it, sorry, I'm interrupting you now.
Yeah.
I like to have it, and it's specialized per sport. I will get something that will show me that if you are fatigued, it will go slow. So there will be tests for your body. You will do, for example, 100 push-ups, and if there's a time domain that you are slower, you are fatigued. But my question now is, why are you fatigued? Now, I didn't eat this morning, so I can't say that you are overtraining.
Okay, because you're
So I'm
fasting, which is maybe
tracking,
good.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm tracking
All right.
what's happening with your body. What's the weight that you're pushing around? What's the weight you're putting around? And then obviously the same elements is your brain elements with that.
Okay, and you track that. So there are tests that you can do because I've burnt out since I've burnt out many times with especially with my last business because there were just no limits and yeah I was just like, well, there's no limits now. So
But the main thing is there's not even a word in the dictionary like limitless. There's not a word, but your brain is limitless. But the thing is you need to step sometimes out of the space, do something else. For example, we had such good fun going for go-karts. And it was such a relief, and but still fun.
yeah,
So I'm not going to say to you, read a book, for example, because that's not trickling your hiking out a mountain or running a marathon or whatever the case may be. So wherever you are replacing and stepping out of it, it needs to be still in the same. It can be total something different. It does not have again now. It's from athlete to athlete. There's some athletes when they're stepping away from I'm using kite surfing as they just want to be in a quiet room with nothing. They just want to lie in a bed and just sleep. They don't have to have stimulation.
that sounds like me.
So
Put on
again,
Netflix and I'm good.
that's why the relationship between a coach, mentor, slash athlete is so intense. It's literally a relationship that's tight and knitted. I need to know what's happening in your life constantly, not because I'm prying on it, because I need to know what's happening with you and what is your mental state. Because I want you, if you are not in a very good headspace, how on earth do you want your body to link onto your brain?
The last time we met, you were describing how it's kind of like the Serenity Prayer. How you can there are things that are in your control and things that are out of your control. Can you speak more about that? Because with all sports, there are going to be, like with tennis, there's going to be that opponent that just really wants to get into your head, which are the unknown variable. And you had a very good analogy the last time we spoke when we had coffee there. Can you speak more about that and how you kind of deal with that sort of the things that you can control and the things that you can't?
I would like to coin something. I believe big air, kite surfing, they are the Formula One drivers of the air. Yes? Because the decisions that they need to make is split second in incredible G-forces with extreme wind speeds and extreme ocean environments. So they are the F1 drivers of the air. Sometimes
you're landing at 9 or 10 Gs. The board is actually landing on the water at 9 or 10 Gs, and that has to be, so that's 9 or 10 times that, Formula One drivers are racing at maybe 6 Gs, and that force has to be taken up by their body.
So coming back to the elements of control and uncontrollable, so it differs obviously when you watching them and one of the guys on our social media is watching them, they would go, oh, but they can control this or they can control this. But you as a kite surfer have specific controllables that you as a kite surfer have. And obviously there's a couple of benchmarks that I've started creating, looking at the kite surfer as a whole. But number one is you can't control the wind. That's one of the uncontrollables as an example. And you can't control the kicker. Now, the kicker is the wave that pops you up into the air. You can't control that. But what can you control? Your body. So your body is in peak condition. It's strong. It's flexible. It's mobile. It's the mobility and it's stable. That's the three elements. And you can control it off the water. Yeah. You don't have to be in the air. So the dryland drills that we're doing is very much linked to whatever happens on the water. So I'm not building bodybuilders. I'm building kite surfers. I'm building better kite surfers. And the environment that the new era of kite surfers are going into, you need to be strong, body physically, to hold your own, because this wind is yanking you at 35 knots up in the air, 10 stories up in the air. Yeah. You need to be conditioned with that. And then
And the wind changes while you're up there.
it
So,
changes.
and they're looping the kite through the power
Kite,
zone.
kite angles is much. It's
So the kite's going through, and then now the wind is changing up there because you're at a high altitude. You're 10 stories up. Now all of a sudden a gust comes through. While you're looping it, you have to make these incremental changes,
yes,
like a Formula One driver. Yeah, you have to make an incremental change while you're looping the kite, while you're flying at incredible G-forces. It is really.
And then you need to put yourself back safely, stopped on a cushion under the water.
I know.
How amazing is that? That's incredible.
I mean, I can't even do a heli loop. I'm still learning my heli loops.
I'm just trying to get on the board.
Really?
No, I'm lucky on the board. All the pros, I'm lucky on my board.
Are you on your board?
Yeah, I'm on the board and I'm enjoying it so much.
So you've got a twin tip?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So coming back to you, to the question about control and uncontrollable, you can control, number one, your mind. So we need to strengthen your mind through drills and some secrets that we're working on through there, and then your body, obviously. And the training of the body is so specialized. I had this week 2 guys, one patched his shoulders, is almost dislocated, luckily not. Another one got a board in the face, he broke his nose. It's incredible.
Well, we started the podcast with me explaining how it was 2 days ago. I took this Egyptian, 17-year-old Egyptian. I saw them carrying this guy up the beach, and I'd just been kite surfing, and I had a kite mare. We call it a kite mare.
Yes.
I lost my board 3 times, and then I had to get rescued. My chicken loop came undone, and I had to get rescued out there by 2 kite surfers. Luckily, everyone looks out for themselves.
What a cool fraternity, yeah.
I know, it's really cool. Yeah. So I was just really, and I ended up way down the beach, and I was just so tired. And I went and got dinner, and then I was watching 4 guys carrying this guy up the beach, and I didn't know this Egyptian guy. I'm just going to leave it alone, I know first aid and all this. I was kind of almost a doctor sort of thing, but no, sitting there with Craig. No one's running up the beach. It doesn't look serious. They bring this guy up the beach. He's pale. Hey, he's hypothermic. He had been wrapped up in his lines for the last hour because his ribs are broken. Right. Then now we phoned the ambulance. Now we're in South Africa, right? So I phoned the ambulance. There's no answer. There's no answer. So now I'm going like, this could be a neck or head injury. Must be now like time to my surfboard and stretch him into my car. Anyway, but it looked like hypothermia was the biggest concern because he was shivering and he was losing consciousness from that. So we got him to the hospital in the car, which was dangerous in itself because it could have been a neck injury.
Yeah.
There was no way of knowing. This is a possible head injury because the guy lost consciousness in my car on the way there. So that brings me on to the next question is, do you ever prepare these guys? Because this was a big thing for me. After pro sports, I was just a nobody for like 2 years. I just didn't have any identity. How do you remedy that going forward with a young athlete?
That's a very good question, and I think that if somebody's got the perfect answer, I think it will be a millionaire. But it's important that we always try to, while they open their brain for you to work on it to make them a better world champion, and that makes you a good coach, I believe, have a bigger picture for them as well. So get them involved in coaching. Get them involved in kite designs, for example, as an example. Do R&Ds, research and development. Getting new skills. Go for a draw or get involved with kite designs where you use specific drawing packages. Start working with that. Manufacturing of specific things. Maybe good with your hands. So there's always a bigger picture. And we would love to have both sides, because now at the moment you take your mind off being total 100% focused to being world champion and thinking about a future. That's a dangerous gamble, because if you go 50-50, I want to be a kite designer and I want to be a world champion. That's a very scary way of where do you give and where do you take?
No, it can't be 50-50, yeah.
50-50.
So it's got to be like 95-5 or something like that, which is also, so the identity is in being a sportsman, but you need that 5% of some other sort of thing.
Yes.
Which,
whatever it is.
Yeah, I've seen that in so many things. It's soon as I start giving advice about something that I know little about, then I get really good at that, even though I know a very little bit about it. But if I give advice to someone who knows a little bit less than me, then all of a sudden I go like, hey, I actually know more. Yes, it's like that neural pathway, that starting to form again, and it's getting reinforced, and then you hear words come out of your mouth, and you go like, wow, I actually did know that. So I think that the teaching aspect would maybe be a good answer for anything that you want to learn, is start teaching even when you're really bad at it. Yeah, I think that's a fascinating concept that's been used by AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's these other groups as well.
It comes with the element of accountability as well. I believe we learn through play.
Yeah.
We as humans need to go back and play.
Yeah.
Everything is not always about winning and losing. Everything's not about, sometimes you just go out and whatever brings a smile to your dial, you go and do it over and over and over until you can't know.
Just whatever. Yeah, don't go out. Yeah, it's like there's this incredible book, and I'll keep mentioning it because it's so incredible. It's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I've read it.
Oh, have you read that? Wow. He talks about if your objective is something and you're not getting it, change your objective, and then that thing will come. He was in a concentration camp.
Yes.
And so he didn't make it about the objective. The objective for him was survival, right? But he had to train his brain to go like, no, the objective is actually helping his fellow man, is actually looking out for his men in his I want to say the Afrikaans word for some reason, in his kasana. You see, I start stuttering when I speak Afrikaans. But anyway, in his bungalow, like he was looking after. So as soon as it became about helping his fellow man, and then he would have conversations in his mind with his wife and telling how much. So as soon as it became about that, then he could endure the suffering. So once again, it brought that levity, and also the meaning. So like these guys that wanted to commit suicide, actually, he would say, no, there's something in you that no one else in the world has this. So you need to look deep into yourself. These guys that were just about to hang themselves said, I bet you there's something that no one else in the world, once you get out of here, can do. And the one guy was he had written some scientific paper that needed to be completed, and the other guy had a child that needed a father, and both these guys didn't hang themselves. They both survived through the concentration camp. So I know I've jumped around a bit, but the point being that sometimes if you're in this dark space, don't go like, I need this. You go like, wait, let's try to think outside the box. Let's try and find a fun way. Let's make the objective something else. Like if you want to be world champion, say, no, wait, just for today, like you said, just for today, make the objective fun. Thanks so much for your time. I know you've got a family. They're all sitting down there, or maybe they're watching you.
They're watching, yeah.
They're probably watching you. Okay. Well. Hello to.
To Anya and Ruan and Anu.
Okay. So.
Most probably they're making notes, and they will say, when you get back home, you must remember to do a little bit of this more. So I will have a prescription.
Yeah, I really.
And to be a better podcaster. So.
Okay. So they're gonna
hold for myself.
So they're gonna hold you accountable.
They are definitely. They're my biggest fans, and they just want the best for me. To be the best in whatever Ruan looks like. So so I will have definitely a small little memo lying on my bed.
Really?
Yeah, it's just fun. I'm just joking.
No, your kids will definitely hold you accountable for what you. But that's awesome. The awesome thing about it.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely awesome, and thanks so much for your time, and thanks so much for the platform. It's absolutely amazing. I hope we can do it soon again.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks for being here.